Hi, everyone. My name is Will, and I've been talking to you a lot about adaptive music strategies. And today I'm going to talk to you about one that I've been using for my adaptive music class. So, in the school that I'm at, I'm actually lucky that I have time to do an adaptive music class, which is where I get to pull some of the kids receiving services to my classroom to actually do an adaptive music where they can learn to play some instruments and learn some basic music concepts in a group of their peers at a slower pace or at a modified pace in a way where they can actually interact with music in a meaningful way. I've already seen it begin to transfer into their actual class time with their grade levels, with participation and behaviors, which is super cool. But today, I want to talk about a strategy. And my strategy is soundscapes in background music. So here's the thing. Um, when we're doing music class with a general ed class, we probably wouldn't necessarily want to put on a background music or like a soundscape because that's usually something you would put on to kind of fill space so that there isn't, a dead space. There isn't anything just kind of waiting. We might use it like as classes are transitioning in and out, but never as an actual lesson piece. But what I want to tell you today is for adaptive music, this can actually be a really good strategy for you to use to go ahead and engage with the students who are receiving services who might need maybe a little bit more support. How I use this is in a couple ways. One way I'm going to talk to you about, one way I'm going to show you. Does that sound good? Good. So the first thing, excuse me, when I use a soundscape, I actually 2 weeks ago when I did my first adaptive music class, official adaptive music class in my room, we used a soundscape that had like a spa music and all the instruments were in the tone of C. Well, the interesting thing is I have handbells and I have a tongue drum and they're also in C. So what I did was I left out the handbells that played the C, E, G, so it would stay in the chord of C. And I brought out the tongue drum. Again, it's a soft instrument that I showed you in a previous video that was also pitched to C, as well as the triangle. And my students were able to explore the handbells, the drums, and the triangle and play with the soundscape. Now, it didn't sound dissonant or cause any kind of distractions for these students because they were all in the same pitch. You can actually do this. If you look up soundscapes or background music in the key of, you can pick the key and then pull out the instruments that would be appropriate for those keys. Instruments that would be really good for that kind of thing would be pitched handbells, boom whackers, even the xylophone or Orff instruments if your school has Orff. And make sure, again, they're in the key that these instruments are in. Now, let's actually try something. Right now, I'm playing a background music. You might not be able to hear it because we're far away from the screen, so let's go ahead and scoot closer to the screen. But before we do that, let's show you what we're going to do with that. I'm playing kind of a jazz music, so this would be something I would do with them and plan to do with them really on my next class. We're going to use shakers. We're going to use mini tambourines. These actually have been really great because they're much smaller than a tambourine, and my students who are doing more of the rake can do this and really kind of get used to shaking the tambourine without actually holding on to the full-size tambourine or having something heavy that might hurt them if they hit themselves. This isn't going to hurt them. And a drum. All right, I am going to have you travel with me because I'm super bad at video editing, so I'm sorry if it makes you feel sick, but let's go ahead and grab our instruments. We're going to go head over to my carpet area. Now, this is something I use too all the time. I always have my kids, the loud sounds. I always have my kids come with me to the carpet. The carpet seems to be a place where they feel comfortable, and a place where they will just sit and enjoy playing with the instruments. If I try to do things in the chairs or on the tables, they tend to get overstimulated. I think it's because it's really close to where my shelves are. All right, so here we are. We're at the carpet. Come down with me and take a seat. Whew. Thank you so much for coming with me to the carpet. All right, so playing on my board is a jazz background song. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. So you should be able to hear a little bit of it. This is the video that I picked has royalty-free music. It seems to be computer generated, so I don't really have to worry about anything like that. So what I would do is I would lay out the instruments. So when my students come in, they would see a small group of shakers, a small group of tambourines, and their drum. By listening to the song, I hope you can hear it a little bit. I'd introduce them to a rhythmic pattern. I'd probably start with shakers. So we'd listen, and then we'd play, and I'd have them repeat. Keep it simple. If we do 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, they're going to learn how to play. Once they're comfortable with that, I might try to introduce them to the next instrument. So we'll listen for a minute, have them pick it up, and I'll show them something like 1, 2, here we go. Something simple. And see if they can rotate between right, left. Now, switching between right and left is a skill that they would still be working on, many of them, if they have motor things going on. So getting them to use those tambourine instruments right, left is really going to help their motor development as well as learn how to play the instrument. Then the last thing I would do is introduce the drum. Now, I would save the drum for last because the drum has a little weight to it. The drum can also hurt the fingers if they're hitting the side like this because it's got a hard rim. So I'd really want to make sure I was sitting. I might even do a little hand over hand where I take my hand, hold their hand, and show them where to hit the drum. And then we would do a basic rhythm. In this case, we're just keeping the beat with the music. We're not necessarily expecting students taking adaptive music to become jazz musicians overnight or be able to play in a group overnight. But what we are getting them to do is to understand the concepts that we teach in a general ed class in a way that they will be able to understand them. They can hear the music playing. They can see that I am playing on the beat. They can try it themselves and touch it. And a lot of times they'll count with you. I don't know if you've worked with some of the students that are receiving special ed services, but I find it interesting how many of them are really, really comfortable with numbers. So if I say 1, 1, 1, 9 times out of 10, I'll get them to say 1, 1 while they're playing the drum. Well, I hope this idea kind of helps you as a strategy. Again, we're talking about using like the background sounds, you know, like the little calm videos that have like water and fire, something chill with like smooth jazz, more calm, or using a soundscape where they do like more of the spa with the water or like a thunderstorm sound or something like that. Well, I will talk to you more about adaptive music strategies later, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for staying with me. Bye.